Gonna give it a minute to load.
Yeah.
So
How,
this
is
is
the
a
mic line
YouTube.
okay?
Yeah. You're a little quiet though, maybe.
I'm going to come a little closer, and
Yeah,
I'm going
there
to
we
bring
go.
the gain up a little bit. How's that?
That's a lot better.
All right,
Thank
I'm
you.
going to come a little closer. Absolutely.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to have some people live on today. I think this is going to be a really great conversation. So my guest today is Dr. Jack Kunkel. He's a colleague of mine I met through the cell core world, and he's a muscle tester. He's written a book on fat loss. I think it's the correct term, right?
Yeah, it's
Jack?
fat loss, not weight loss.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wonder if you can just give us a bit about your background. I think you've been specializing in like fat loss and thyroid for quite a while, right?
Yeah. So I started doing weight loss back in '98. I was a kind of pre-med student. Ended up working in an ambulance business, going to school. Finished my master's in clinical nutrition. Did some natural drug-free bodybuilding. Turned professional. Did like the magazines and stuff like that for a long time ago, many years ago. And then I finished up my PhD and then my doctorate in natural medicine.
Oh, okay.
So my work is I do nutrition, and I do a lot of different testing in the office. And my PhD and my doctorate is in natural medicine. So I love this kind of avenue. But yeah, I do specialize in weight loss resistance, thyroid issues. I mean, I see a plethora of different patients every single day in practice. But that's always been my specialty. And I wrote my book twice. It's called "It's Fat Loss, Not Weight Loss." And it was made for people that are just kind of starting onto this journey. And it's not what I do when I work with people on weight loss, but it's the fundamentals that we really need to get down before we start jumping into other things.
Got it. So I'm putting the title of that in the chat there, and I know it's on Amazon, correct?
Yep, right on Amazon.
So is that sort of myth busting? Like people think, losing weight is about XYZ, and you're like, no, that's not it.
It's about building the foundation of your habits that
Okay.
help you create, weight loss in a long term. And it's a very easy, short, it's not super hard to read. It's kind of funny and easy to read, but there's specific chapters on everything. So sometimes people just kind of jump around. Like, do we want to learn about meditation? Do I want to learn about, how's the body, what we call positioning fat loss? That is, how do we actually exercise to build muscle and burn fat? So there's all those, what is nutrition? Like what is nutrition? What type of food should I be eating?
Okay, awesome.
Yeah.
So I love the aspect of Alive is like we can kind of cater to our audience. So I know I have some people on here.
Yeah.
If you want to go ahead and share maybe just what you'd like to learn today, where you felt stuck in your own fat loss journey, questions you have about the thyroid or toxins. So I know, Dr. Jack, you talk about like processed oils and things like salad dressing and that kind of a thing. But I wondered, as you started your career, were you what was your awareness of like toxicity playing a factor into weight back then?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't know a lot about it. I didn't know a lot about that stuff many years ago. I didn't understand, what oils are bad and what foods not to eat, and how we're basically being poisoned every day, and how do we get rid of it? And I speak a lot on like what we call the cell danger response, where our metabolism shuts down due to toxins, and toxins usually open up the door to pathogens, and that's where people kind of get stuck on this weight loss. And then what happens is we get on Dr. Google and we take 50 different supplements and we try every exercise plan and we yo-yo diet, and then our metabolism's shot, and that's what I try to, that's like one of my biggest goals is like just having people have the understanding of how to lose weight permanently, because it's no fun I could have anybody come into the office and lose weight, ultra quickly, manipulate their macros and do all this stuff, but that's not how you build your metabolism. I want to build people's metabolism and say, thank you. I really appreciated working with you. You're good to go. Like that's my biggest goal with weight loss patients.
Okay. I love that. Talk more about that. Like how do we build that sustained metabolism?
Yeah, when I first start at the foundation of the body, and I kind of go in there, and as I taught you in like cell core muscle testing, is what is in the body that's causing, when I'm referring to the cell danger response, I'm basically referring to a native something that our body responds to when it's being attacked by toxins. So toxins are, any kind of chemicals and metals and, pesticides, herbicides, glyphosates, industrial stuff, like people wearing the wrong type of makeups and, eating bad food and that kind of stuff. But the toxins lower the door to the pathogens, and then people wonder why they have a parasite infection. Mold drops them on their butt. Things like that where they should be able to handle. So I first look into like, hey, what are the underlying toxins and pathogens? How do I identify them? What are the ones that we have to get out first? So we pull the bad stuff out first. And as we're doing that, we're rebuilding the lifestyle, and we're building in habits that you could do every single day, not what you could do for a week. And then it's like, oh, I'm never doing this again. And then I build programs from there. I clean the foundation. I accelerate the metabolism. Then we start working on diets, start working on a specific exercise for that individual. And then we go from there. And as you know, when we're working towards these goals, there could be a lot of roadblocks in the way. And as I'm going through a lot of the other roadblocks, not just toxins and pathogens and poor diet or not sleeping correctly and the stresses through the roof, not just all those, is we always get a lot of stuck emotional in us, right? So it's like, the stuck emotion of, not forgiving someone or shock, or I'm thinking of a lot of the ones that I tested or taken for granted. Like I have a lot of my patients are females, and I have a lot of, it's like, take it for granted 3 years ago, and oof, and it's heavy, and you got to clear that out of the fascia. So the vibration in their body could get a little bit higher to help them, lose weight permanently. And but it's always a process, and that's what I want people to understand.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'm just writing some little notes in the chat here. Yeah, and I was, that just brings up a lot, and I think that you see a lot of women clients, and I just kind of realizing, culturally, the things as women we're taught to stuff down, and not to say men aren't culturally taught to stuff down things too. It's just different. We have our different ways, like that we've been taught, like as a gender, to react to things. So yeah, it's interesting. I'm assuming you see some male clients too.
I do. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So what kind of, like, how do you see like the emotional part play out differently, men versus women?
I see different emotions in everyone, right? But
Got it. Okay.
but a lot of the female emotions that are stuck tend to be different from males. But it's also, I don't want to say it's I guess it's a little bit of gender as well. But it's also like their past. And it could also be like an inherited stuck emotion from, grandpa removed 7 times over on mom's side.
Wow. So are you looking at this from muscle testing to what you find, look at emotions?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Where you're gonna look at what emotions are causing the issues. There's a very interesting thing with muscle testing. You come into it and you learn one way, and they say that's the best way, and then you learn another one and they say that's the best way, and then you learn, and you're like 5 deep in, and you're going up on the levels, and every time they're like, oh, this is the best testing method. And after a while you're like, wasn't everyone before it the best testing method? It's kind of like the supplements nowadays, like this is the best. This does
true.
Yeah. So I just keep learning and learning and learn. That's my goal. Like I go to every type of learning experience I can to help me be a better tester, whether it's emotionally or physically or whatever's happening in the body. Is how do we look into that? So emotions, yeah, a lot of more of the female emotions is like taken for granted, shock. One of the big ones lately is for male and females, forgiveness. It's like, oof. Sometimes I'll be testing like, oh, wow, your heart chakra off. And then I'm asking questions specific to the heart chakra. Like, what is causing this problem with the heart chakra? And I'll be like, so one young guy, 13-year-old, today was in the office, and I said, who do you got to forgive? Like, you need to forgive someone. I came up like brutally strong. And so, I sent him an email. I use a process called Ho'oponopono. It's an ancient spiritual technique for forgiveness, and you could use it a couple different ways. So I read a book many years ago on it, and have given talks on it. So I said, hey, check out this email, sit in this chair. Don't tell this person you're forgiving him, but you're sending it to them. You're forgiving them. You're not calling them on the phone. And, so they say 4 sentences over and over until it clears. And unfortunately, I mean, like all of us could use that kind of stuff. But it's the art and science of understanding the body enough. Like, we're looking for toxins. We need to know what the toxins are, whether it be mold, whether it be, Borrelia or Lyme, the co-infections, mycoplasms, different industrial things, radiation, like all these things. Those are just the vials I was talking about from Cellcore, but we have other vials. But you have to understand what those vials are. Then you need to understand how to get them out. And then you could ask the question. You could ask questions to the body in a specific design manner to help people, with their weight loss.
Okay. So you're potentially finding toxins, stuck emotions, problems with metabolism that developed from like yo-yo dieting, hormonal issues. I would assume, with thyroid for you, I know is your expertise, thyroid being off, which can be from hormones potentially too, right? Or emotions.
Absolutely. And a lot of times it's like, even if it's the thyroid, it's always the liver. It's always, it's never just the thyroid.
Right. How did it get affected? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it sounds like there's like a lot of layers potentially, like you're slowly chipping away at with clients.
That's what you have to do. I have lists of questions I'm asking. I know it sounds awful odd, but you could ask the other than conscious mind specific questions. Not everything. You can never, and a lot of people get this wrong, and it happened to me many years ago. You can't ask the body if it has cancer, right? You can't say that because the body doesn't know. It can't differentiate it. It's cell. It's just mutated. So the body can't answer that. So you have, I don't know if you ever read like Bruce Lipton's books, like the biology.
I have not. No.
The Biology Belief is one of my favorite books. The guy's really brilliant. He talks about this other than conscious mind that's 95,000 times stronger than our conscious mind. And it's the tape recorder. It's the thing that's running everything in the background. So with muscle testing, that's what we're kind of tapping into, is that other than conscious mind. And it works. It's so powerful when you're clear on yourself, you're confident, you understand what you're doing, and you have really good intentions. That's one of the things we learned during my PhD studies is like, you have to be, if you're doing this work, you have to be cured. You have to be healed. You have to have good intentions. I pray any person I put my hand on, I'm praying. I thank God that I'm able to help them. And if you could help me at all, God, please come through me. Every person I touch, like I wouldn't do it without God on my side,
Yeah, if you guys ever, I don't know if anyone here has worked with Dr. Jack, but he was teaching muscle testing for my group, and he's just completely like, it's visible, like you're so in the zone, like you're so present to the muscle testing process when you're with a client. It's super cool to watch. You can tell you've been doing it a long time. So I kind of wanted to take an example case, but I wonder if you could just, like, people are listening and they're like, I don't really know what muscle I've never experienced or heard of muscle testing. Could you give us like the quickie on that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I use a plethora of muscle testing. So there's a lot of different types in muscle testing, like advanced kinesiology, they call it AK, nutrition response testing. Some people call it NRT. What we were doing is Cellcore muscle testing. And unfortunately, I don't have my vials here, but they're just, with Cellcore muscle testing, you're taking vials of pathogens. And these are pathogens that, it's just the truth. Like we use a radiation vial, and I'll just explain. It's like a little vial, and it says radiation on it. And it's a radioactive metal, and it's the energetic signature for those radiation metals. And it's not like radiation from your cell phone. It's from the ground. And it's in a lot of drinking water. And if the CDC says around 170 million Americans are drinking, radiation in the water, and we get it at very, very, very low levels. And a lot of times what happens is we accumulate it over time in the body, but there's not blood work for that. There's no test for like drinking water radiation. When your water guy comes and checks your water, he might be checking for 200 different things. It's not radiation. So we have this huge advantage where we have these vials, and we can find where the radiation is in the body. So we teach it, and muscle testing is a locked muscle. So like you're here and I push down, I put pressure on my arm. And when I push, it should kind of go down slightly and stop like a piano key. And it's a yes, no question. So is my name Jack? Is my name Bridgit? My arm just wobbles. My name Jack? Is my name Bridgit? I can't even keep my arm up. It's just a yes, no. So we're using these vials and we're just going all over the different areas. So let's just say like mold, like what I do with mold is if I'm suspecting somebody has mold, I'm first checking in their brain. And if I find it in their brain, it's indicated that it's a chronic exposure. Then I'm going through all their lungs. Are they breathing it in right now? And then I'm going into their liver. Like, are they trying to process it? Right. So then I'm determining that. And then we give it a number in Cellcore. We set an intention. 1,000 is the most amount of mold. 0 is the least amount. So we'll say, is it above 500? And if the arm is weak, we know it's not. So I'll say, is it above 400? If the arm's strong, I'll say, is it 410, 420, 430? It drops. It means it's 420. Now, this isn't like you're getting a report on blood work that says you have this or that, right? This is an intention as a practitioner that I set 0 to 1,000. So now I know there's mold. So now I'm also going to get that vial and I'm going to go right down the digestive tract, all throughout the digestive tract. Because some people I've tested for mold and they were just eating old food and cheese all the time. And it was we're going to treat them a lot different, obviously, than they're breathing in.
I would love to learn to test that because I've been researching a little bit about like colonization lately, and I feel like still in the mold field, there's a lot of blanks that we don't fully know. And sometimes practitioners are just filling them in with some assumptions. And I'm like, is there really that much colonization in the gut, or is there more in the nose, or is it just kind of passing through with the wrong foods, like you said? So yeah, I'd be so curious to see in action, like what you find, or is there any trends you found, or every case is different?
Well, I have where I live, there's a flood zone. So, I pick up on those. As far as trends, I know there's moldy buildings around here, and I'm like, do you work here? Right.
Oh, no.
I think when we chatted on my Instagram, I told you a little bit about one of those statistics, and I believe it was Dave Asprey that talked about it in his movie called Moldy.
Mm-hmm.
It talked about 24% of the population, when they get exposed to mold, they have a really hard time getting rid of that mold. And it's very interesting because it's funny when I test families, I'll say I'll never forget, I tested a family of 8, and it was a mixed family. They kind of came together, and some of them were like completely fine, and some of them were just like really mess. Like they were tired. They couldn't think, they had all the symptoms, like you name it, they had it. And they all lived in the same house. They all ate the same food, but genetically some of those people, they had no problem with it. And I remember it was the youngest son who was did the best out of all of them. And they're like, he's the only one who eats good as well. So was it a genetic thing and food? But it was very interesting. One of the other, now this is something very interesting with mold testing. Dr. Lisa Palmer taught me that you could take I actually have a mason jar here, an empty mason jar without water. I know this is super non-scientific, and you open it and I would say before your appointment, whether you're online or in office, obviously there's no water in here, open the mason jar and just let it sit in all the different rooms. So you could actually ask the body, is there mold in this container?
And you did multiple jars, you told me, right? So you'd have one in the basement and one. Yeah, I think it's so cool. I think it's super cool. Mm-hmm. So if you guys are, and what's your website, Dr. Jack, so I can share it in the chat?
It's jackkunkel.com, and the last name is Kunkel.
Yeah, so Dr. Jack does see people online or in person in New York. And I just been really fascinated by muscle testing because it's just a different way to get potentially a lot of information, right? Because it can be quite expensive to run multiple labs, and then this emotional component is something completely different. Yeah. So if you've never experienced it, you're curious, you can go check out his website. And I still something I want to learn further on, even if I don't quite know what I'm going to do with in my career because of some other things going, because I'm changing my career around. I think it would just be great to have, like, for my own family and my own friends, because sometimes it's like I have an older dog, and she was having like allergies. Like her skin she was itching so much, and to the point she was bleeding. And I was like, is this from she's allergic to the grass. I'm like, is this from the grass? Is this from the dog food? Is this like,
Yeah.
I couldn't really answer because I don't know enough about muscle testing yet. But the cool thing is, like, when you get good at this stuff, you can really find out the sources of things. I know I had Nikki on my Instagram, and she was saying, or on this show, and she was saying that they had a little boy client who was throwing up, and the parents thought, of course, it's got to be something about the food. It was always like on a certain day they go out for pizza. It must be something about this pizza place. And like she found out it was from, he would play soccer that day before they go for pizza. And it was like the pesticides on the soccer field.
Mm.
And most people would never come to that conclusion, why a kid would be throwing up. So it just
Yeah.
opens up like so many more possibilities of what could be going on,
Mhm.
so that you can actually get better.
And you have to have that background knowledge. You have to know like the dangers of turf.
Yeah, right.
You have to know that, or you can't ask the question.
True.
So
True.
that's a big issue. People have to wrap their head, and you can't you can't ask questions like, should I do this business deal? You can't. It's not how that works. Yeah, like if I could, I would.
You would if you could.
I would.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting point too. Like it's not, like you said about the cancer thing. Like maybe your body can't answer that question, but if you hold up the radiation vial and the body has been exposed, it knows, oh, like this, I'm familiar with this, and it's not a good thing for me.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's almost some of the origins, so to speak, of cancer you could find potentially.
Yeah.
So interesting. Well, does anybody in our live audience want to, like, I can actually bring you on if you want to ask, come on and like we can do a little case study if anyone's feeling brave. It's a great opportunity. Otherwise, we'll make up our own little case studies. But I know as I wait for people, I'll say, you mentioned in your lecture at Cellcore, people will plateau in their weight loss
Oh,
journey. I'd be curious, is that, more about that, and why people plateau. It sounds like for you too, like from the examples in your lecture, there's kind of phases. Like I would imagine, say, I don't know, maybe you're starting out with like helping someone sleep better and their cellular energy, and then you have to move on to then you get to move on to like deeper stuff. So could you tell us about just like that whole process and how it tends to develop?
So you're talking about how somebody gets stuck in a weight loss journey.
Yeah, and maybe even like, oh, let's say, I don't know, like let's just say someone's feeling like they're 50 pounds overweight, and you've done your intake and you feel like they have, I don't know, 10 different factors going
Yeah,
on. Like how do you get, like, which do you start with, and like what's the patterns you see kind of follow with weight? If that does that make sense?
it makes complete sense.
Okay.
So one of the things I do is I unpack the stuff. So when I'm doing a lot of the testing, I'm checking every organ. What is priority? What is the priority toxin in the organ? When I'm looking at the pathogens, I have specific numbers of how high they are. So I'm getting a clear picture of, okay, here's where I have to start. And then I'm asking the body questions. Is it a sleep issue? Is it a food issue? It's a food issue. Then I have lists of stuff. Are you under eating? Are you overeating? Like you're asking these questions.
Oh,
So
okay.
it's this constant, like you're clearing the top of the junk. We're clearing, mercury on your thyroid, and we're clearing, maybe some arsenic, and we're clearing chemicals and pesticides and herbicides. And, because these toxins are driving down, they're putting the body into a defense posturing mechanism, which they refer to as the cell danger response.
Mm.
Instead of your cells burning energy, like we put cells we put energy in our cells, and the mitochondria make energy out of them, and then they get rid of it and we breathe it out. So we breathe out fat when we're losing fat, believe it or not, we're breathing it out. Instead of that doing its job, the mitochondria shift jobs, they get a new job. Like you were just saying, you're going to get a new job. And they come outside of the cell, and instead of making that energy in the cells, they make the cells stiff. They tell the neighbors, like, I need help. It's like this secretion they give, and it turns your metabolism off.
Okay.
So as we're doing this, and there's other things like, is it an emotional thing? So I'm like, when I meet with somebody, I have lists of all the stuff like I'm going to be working on. But the key is I'm testing all the time. It's not, you don't just test once. You're
So they come back in 2 weeks or whatever.
If it's a serious weight loss patient and they're like, I got to get this stuff out, it's every 2 weeks.
Okay.
Most of my patients I see once a month.
Okay. That's yeah. Okay, that's helpful. So you're really just letting the body guide priorities as far as what you treat first.
Yep. And you also have to use a little bit of knowledge, right? Like anybody could have anybody lose weight when their diet is just horrible. Like, we'll start by cleaning up your diet. While I'm cleaning up your diet, here's what's going on. You have, a big parasite in your gut. It's affecting your liver. It's causing ammonia in your body. It's causing a little bit of the cell danger response. I'm going to start killing it now, right? But I can't do that yet because you're not pooping, right? So I got to have you first, right? So we're talking about how we get toxins out of our body. I'm working on these things as much as the patient can handle them.
Yeah, I agree. And I do think that comes with more experience. I actually, just before we got on, was talking to a client who had been in mold like 8 or 9 years and now was out and had like C. diff and like just a lot of stuff go on. She had seen a practitioner and was frustrated because they actually put her on para 1, 2, and 3 all at the same time, which is a lot. I know, you're shaking your head.
I know, it drives me crazy.
Yeah, which of course wasn't making her feel good. I think she was just taking whatever full dose too. And yeah, she didn't have any testing with this practitioner. I don't think there was muscle testing either. And she got in some Megaspore products, which I love. But maybe just the order was a little goofed up of things. And I was talking to this client, and she said, I feel like you're really getting, she brought some testing, and she's like, I feel like you're really kind of getting it. And it's like, a lot of that is just experience. Like, I've been looking at people's messed up guts for quite a while, and the gut is complicated. And detox can be complicated too, because just like you said, like, you can't move at the same rate with everybody. So you do have to look at those, like, underlying, like you said, if there's someone's constipated, you better not be pushing things, because it's all going to go back in. So that, yeah, I would say as much as like lab testing can be great tools, muscle testing can be great tools. And Dr. Jack's been working with weight loss for like almost 25 years, right?
All right, don't age me.
And he's still only 27. So that's like just an amazing amount of like things you've seen, probably some mistakes you've made along the way, times you've got stuck with a client and then had like a breakthrough. So it's just so interesting. And people are listening and have been frustrated with their own health. Like, yeah, it's a lot to discern like what's more important, and like when can you push and when you can't. So yeah, I just kind of want to acknowledge that.
And if I like gave them my sheet of like, here's what we're working on in the order, and then I'm always retesting those and then ask, because I could test so quickly, especially remotely, and instead of me using my arm, we use our fingers as a yes, no. So it's called quantum entanglement. Like the Nobel Peace Prize on physics was given out for it last year, 2020.
Oh, really? Interesting.
So yeah, it's science at this point, but it's super. It's so accurate. Sometimes you're pushing on people's arms and they're not getting the lock. They won't push. I push, you push, and they don't push. And it's like, oof.
True.
So then I'm like, all right, put your arm down. I'm just testing them. I'm just testing them, and I'm writing everything down there.
You're like, you're screwing up this process.
What is that? Like, what are they doing? Yeah. So when it's really about unpacking what needs to go out first. Because if I gave you and I screwed up a million, let me just tell you, I've made so many mistakes in my career. It's incredible. But if I gave you a list, when I was working as a clinical nutritionist, I thought I would save the world. I just got my master's. I'm like, nutrition is going to save everyone. I'm so into nutrition, and like, it was depressing. Like, I would help people and they would lose some weight, and then, their package would run out, and then I'd see them like 6 months later. And like some would be like for life, they're set. And then the others were like, they didn't get anything. Like there was no progress. And I love nutrition. I've read so many books on nutrition. It's incredible. Love it. And it didn't help people, and then I was a professional drug-free bodybuilder. I've been working out a very long time. And my first gym membership was in 1993. So I was a personal trainer, did some of that, and I love exercise. And then you put in the exercise, right? And like I'm working on the exercise with them, and they're still not getting there, right? And then it's like, okay, then you learn about basic muscle testing, and they're still not there. Then you learn about this muscle, and then next thing you know, you're on like 6 different muscle testing techniques. You've done all this energy work, and you start realizing like, wow, I thought I'm such a complicated mess. Like we're all like complicated individuals. So
Yeah.
people get stuck, and sometimes it's just their body's set point. Like their body wants to be at a certain weight, and it just fights for a little bit. And it's like, congratulations, you lost 10 pounds in a short amount of time. Give it a week, it'll start losing again. And if they have faith in the system, it will, they'll start losing again.
Yeah, there's that. I think that set point is something people feel like they're experiencing too. Like
Yeah.
it just won't move. I was going to just comment on like your curiosity is like, just because you love nutrition, you have to be realistic about. You're like, hey, I put this a person on a nutrition plan, and now they've gained weight again. Like the curiosity to keep looking at it is so important, because nutrition and exercise aren't the only factors, as you and I now know. And I think the public can still get a little stuck on that, like that those are the only 2 factors, because we're not hearing like, unless you're in our little circle, which you guys probably are, you're not hearing every day about, pesticides and, emotional heaviness. And you're just not like thinking that those are factors. So what you're not thinking about, it's not going to occur to you. So it sounds like you just had a curiosity to be like, hey, there must be more at play. There must be more I can learn. And you started to find out from muscle testing, etc., like, oh, this can also be a factor in weight. This can be a factor. So super interesting.
Yeah. And it's just, losing, like you're losing. You want people to come in better. It's so
Right.
when people come in my office and I don't have headaches anymore. My period's not as bad. Like, they're listing off these things. I have more brain fog. It's like the first time in 7 years, right? They had no idea they have a huge parasite in their brain, right? I mean, it's incredible. And that's so exciting to me. And that's where I like, sign me up for anything that's education. Like just sign me up. Like I read all the books. I know I should read a fun book someday, but when I retire, I promise I will. Till then, I'm like, I'm in it. I'm in the books, because it's so exciting. But it's like you're taught like this is going to change. This is going to change your practice. This is going to change everything. But it won't until like you keep learning. It's like this constant learning practice. And I really hate not getting people results. It's just, it's almost devastating to me.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thinking back, like, you get, you're ingrained in nutrition and exercise, and you think you're going to change the world, and you see some people get help. And then like, the others, it's like, how did I miss them? How did I miss them so bad?
Right. Right. And we're certainly practitioners who are just sort of in their ego, and they're like, well, you must not be doing my program, or like, da, 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 da. It's like we're medical doctors who are like, well, you must just be stressed. And it's such a cop out to, to blame it on the client. Really. It's just a
Yeah.
cop out. I think it's safer to say, hey, I just don't know. Let me do some more research, or let me refer you to a friend, or let me ask a friend for advice. I started teaching a mold practitioner course just a couple weeks ago, and that's what I'm teaching them. I'm like, look stuff up, because everyone's different. Everyone's got their complex stuff, and
Yeah.
and just really come with like your sincere effort, because I think they're going to feel that. And even if they're coming back and they're saying, well, this didn't work or that didn't work, if you're like right there with them and like, okay, let me look into it, and we'll try something different, then you're showing up for that human being. And that's that's great. That's like really valuable. So yeah, I think weight is, man, kudos to you. It's a tough topic. It's complex. So it's very exciting you're getting results for weight. And it sounds like also many other aspects of health for people. So that's
Yeah.
awesome. Package deal. Okay, well, I was just going to show your website real quick. You can also follow Dr. Jack on Instagram. What's your Instagram handle?
Jack Kunkel.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to check you guys out there. We got some really cool, really cool projects for weight loss. Building up an online community. I would love to say it's going to be done soon, but probably not.
Oh, that's okay. Everything's, like you said, everything's a process. So this is his site if you want to just check it out and learn a little more. Any last thoughts, Dr. Jack?
No, I'm honored. I appreciate it. Happy Friday. Enjoy the weekend. God bless everyone.
Yeah, same. Yeah, happy weekend. I'm ready for it. I still need to send you a book too.
Oh, okay.
I'm going to hop off and get your address. Thanks for being on, everybody. I hope you learned something, and you're welcome to follow up with either one of us with questions. Bye, everybody.
Bye.